another Kizuna legend, and another support limited rare recruit. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Omae Chris video. We got a new dot download for the Superboss Kizuna versus Miork and Perono, who is a strength and Psy boss. No, Dex and Psy. They want you to run Rocks Pirates as well as the Roger Gaban against the Superboss. And we have some interesting support here. I don't think this batch is like all that crazy, but they do have their strong abilities and are quite unique. So we have Kizuna Legend, Crocodile, and Robin. We also have the, and they are Kizuna Limited. Then we have the Coby and Alvida support rare recruit. And then finally we have Doflamingo, who is the Kizuna rare recruit, who is clinging on the side of Kizuna Legend, Crocodile, and Robin. Very reliant on their abilities, if I'm being honest. But we'll get into that a bit later on. First, let's take a look at when the Sugo-Fest is starting. It's starting tomorrow at 1900 PST. So very soon, we should be seeing the notice quite soon in game for the Sugo-Fest, where you can see exactly which legends are available, rate boosted characters, and you can finally decide which part is best for you to pull on. Now, we do have OP Day, One Piece Day, literally next month, right around the corner. Gonna be one of the biggest Sugo-Fests of the year, so make sure you save your gems for that. But if you are a competitive player, Superboss, you may be in one of the top alliances, go ahead, go to multi 3, get a recommended character. I would say Coby's not really that needed for this Superboss. Of course, as I said, the Superbosses are Dex and Psy. You want to be running the Rocks Pirates character against the Dex variant. The main thing though, Coby support allows you to get an overheal buff, which essentially allows you to proc the X super of the Rocks Pirates legend. You don't need it though, if there are options to just run units to proc it anyways. But if you are struggling to get your X super of Rocks Pirates to proc, then Coby might be a required character. Of course, the X super of the Rocks gives you a lot of damage, so you do need to have that. But that's really the only type of use I see from Coby in this Kizuna clash. Doflamingo does a lot more. As I said, Doflamingo is quite reliant on the Kizuna, Crocodile, and Robin, but like as a standalone, he does do quite a bit as a rare recruit character. But first, let's take a look at what Alvida and Coby does. Very interesting character. Remember, if you do pull this character and you want to get the extra tickets from running this character as a booster, you can't use them as a support character. You have to put them as a crewmate on your team, which does unfortunately mean you have to use their very shitty special. Honestly though, this is kind of viable. It's a full ward of Dex orbs that are locked. Then you get burn reduction, and then also potentially setting the enemy's defense to 0. So I'm guessing there's going to be a boss with enemy defense up. The enemy will have immunity to everything excluding defense down, and then you can use this Coby to give you utility in that sense. But as for his support, all striker characters, which is a lot of units in the game. One of the strangest support abilities I've seen in my entire life. So he's gonna allow us to give the enemy a 80% damage reduction for 6 turns. He will also give the enemy a minus 8% striker resistance down to all enemies, so that's not just one enemy, which just gives you an extra like 1.1x damage, not too much. And then also allows overhealing for 1 turn. That's the big one, allowing you to proc the Rocks Pirates X super. But to get all these effects, you must either remove poison from your crew, or shuffle poison slots away, or inflict the enemy with a type of poison. Now, as for the damage reduction, which is quite odd, there are very interesting attack boosts in the game called enemy damage reduction based attack boosts. We know about the regular damage reduction based attack boost, which is dependent on how much damage reduction you have on your side, but there's also a separate type of attack boost which is based on the enemy's damage reduction. So if the enemy has an 80% damage reduction, you get a 1.8x attack boost. Now, the only character that comes to mind that has this type of buff is going to be Carrot, Dogstorm, and Cat Viper Legend. They aren't a striker unit themselves, but you could run a separate striker character that has poison resistance with a special, or inflicts the enemy with poison, proc the support, and then it'll give the enemy damage reduction. But this character will give you a chain boost, cooldown, attack down reduction, and then also a damage reduction based on, or an attack boost based on the enemy's damage reduction. So a potential use case of Coby. But remember, if you are running the Rocks Pirates as a captain, the enemy's damage reduction will be set to 0%. So since the Coby support states that when they give the enemy the 6-turn damage reduction, it's treated as if the enemy gave it to themselves, meaning that the captain ability of the Rocks Pirates will still activate and set it to 0%. So they say, yeah, this effect is treated as an activation of damage reduction effect, which essentially means an enemy applied it to themselves. So any type of support abilities that you have on the crew that reduce damage reduction when the enemy has it, if you have the Rocks Pirates captain, any of those effects will still activate, allowing you to essentially ignore the damage reduction. But that's about it for Coby and Alvida. Not much to talk about there. The main thing is their ability to proc the X Super of Rocks Pirates and provide a bit of damage for characters like Dogstorm, Cat Viper, and Carrot. But as for Mr. Zero and Miss All Sunday, this character is very interesting. Rumble stuff is quite powerful. We have another Nami and Karina style character here who just reduces the enemy's cooldowns, special charge time drastically, preventing them from even using their specials. She has a low CD herself, so she will be ready before the enemy. Of course, there are more factors than just that to make sure that she will be activating first. But overall, I see a lot of potential in this debuff style Power Rumble character. She is only against Slasher and Free Spirit type teams though, but she will be a great counter for those. But first, let's talk about her normal, or their normal abilities. So Robin and Crocodile are a strength and dex character. They are of course dual unit with Captain Shift. Both forms of them are going to be Cerebral Striker. Captain ability is excellent. Special ability is pretty good. Captain Shift is absolute garbage. Super type is absolute garbage. This character's a bit average, I'd say. But let me talk about what they actually do. Their singular forms and then their dual form has a very key distinction that will influence how you use this character. So first off, starting in either Mr. Zero or Robin, literally the only difference in their captain abilities, whether you're on a Robin or Crocodile, is that Crocodile gives strength orbs counted as matching, Robin gives dex orbs counted as matching. So not much of a problem there in terms of difference. No multiplier difference, no utility difference. So what they will do in their dual form, singular form, is give a 10 of cooldown to Cerebral and Strikers, 1.2x HP and 5.25x attack flat to those classes. They'll make the 1 orb count as matching, and then reduce Bind by 3 turns and Pain by 3 turns. Pain is usually a debuff that you get when you don't kill the enemy in 1 turn and then you get kind of punished. But I'm guessing this is going to be a much more common debuff for just regular enemy preemptive attacks. And I'm guessing it's going to be dealing a lot of damage. Remember, Pain activates when you perform any action. So if it's a 10k Pain, you can just use a swap effect and you'll take 10,000 damage. It's probably the most deadly damage dealing effect in Treasure Cruise. So the fact that this character reduces that is really, really strong. But then also the bind reduction of 3 turns. The ideal situation is you run a double Robin and Crocodile. That's 6 turns of bind, another 3 turns with sockets, another turn if you're using the Merry-Go ship or any other bind reducing ship. And with that, you should be able to clear any amount of bind on your crew. If you are just running them as a singular captain though, you're not getting a lot of utility, only 3 turns. But you have to consider the following effects in their captain ability, mainly their dual form. Okay, so Baroque Work, as well as 7 Warlords of the Sea tagged characters will get an extra 1.2x attack, bringing their attack boost up to about a 6x, which is pretty good, especially for a singular form. Unfortunately, not many good Baroque Works characters. A lot of decent Warlords of the Sea though, so they can get a very high attack boost. If you have 4 more characters with the tags Baroque Works, Paramythia type, Logia type, 7 Warlords of the Sea, and World Government. If you have 4 unique characters with at least one of those tags, this includes themselves, then if they use a special, so if you have 4 more of those tagged characters and then one of those characters with the tags use a special to give you an all boost or color affinity, it'll get extended by 1 turn, and you will also get a 0.25 added to that effect. So it's very specific. Remember, tags do not stack. If a character has 2 of these tags, it won't count for 2, it's only going to count for 1. But the Robin and Crocodile counts as one of the characters, so you only need 3 other units. And Paramythia type and Logia type are very common, so it really isn't too hard to proc. Very strong effect. It allows you to get a lot more access to characters that can have specials that last for multiple turns in terms of the damage buffs they provide. A character that comes to mind is Treasure Map Mihawk. You could use this guy with him and it could work really well. But as for the dual form, this is where it gets really good. So you want to make sure that you first get into the dual form before you use your specials of your 7 Warlord characters, because it states that if any of your Warlord characters on the crew or of the Baroque Works characters, so Mihawk, Doflamingo, Kuma, Moria, Hancock, Jumbe, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, or Mr. 3, if any of those characters are a crewmate, so they can't be the captain, they can't run a hybrid, and they use a special, any special, increases all enemies take increased damage, or gives the enemy increased damage taken through full immunity. Very, very strong. That is an excellent ability. Through full immunity. I hope it's also through immunity excluding certain status effects. They don't explicitly state it, but they say immunity to status effects, so I'm assuming they're talking about all 3 types, hopefully. But this effect, in addition to the bind and pain reduction and the turn of cooldown, makes this character a very productive captain. And I think for Cerebral and Striker teams, this character is going to be excellent to run. But as for the special, so the special, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's like insane either. It gives a lot of damage, some decent utility, mainly for enemy defensive effects. So this is the type of character that could actually hybrid up with Legend Carrot. The only reason I say that is because look at their special. It will poison the enemy, allowing it to get around resilience. It also reduces the enemy's defense up. Now characters like Carrot, who as a captain negate enemy defensive effects, they don't bypass resilience and they don't bypass defense up. They do bypass damage reduction, threshold, and barrier, as well as damage nullification. So if you use this character alongside Carrot as a captain, you can essentially bypass every enemy defensive effects besides the damage reduction from certain slots, which is reduced by the Mihawk and Perona 6+. So a lot of enemy defensive effects we are negating here. Of course, poison infliction can also proc a conditional attack boost for poison. Of course, it doesn't go through full immunity or any type of immunity, so most of the time it won't even work. But it is there if the enemy has resilience and doesn't have immunity. But then they will give us a 3.25x minimum chain boundary effect for 2 turns. If you do already have a chain boundary or a chain lock, you get a 2-turn all boost for 2.75x otherwise. And it can be buffed twice. Unfortunately, it's only a 2-turn buff, but I mean, I can understand why they want you to use this character to burst in Superboss for over 2 turns. It would be very good if this character was 3-turn buffer, but it would be a bit too powerful, I think. And then the same requirement from the captain ability, you need 4 of those character tags. It will inflict the enemy with weakness through full immunity. This is super, super good. The only other weakness inflictor that actually goes through immunity is, I think, the New Year's Gear 5 Strength Luffy with his X Super which gave the enemy weakness through full immunity. I think this might be the only other character. And remember, weakness is a 1.3x damage increase, but if the enemy also has increased damage taken, it becomes a 1.69x attack boost increase, which is really substantial when you get to really high numbers. So having this in addition to the either chain boundary or boost allows you to get a really good damage with the special. And you also of course get the utility for enemy defensive effects, or proc a conditional for poison or venom. So I think this special is great for utility and damage. No orb manipulation from any part of this character, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I think this is a great special. It's not wowing me. I think the base part of it is definitely the weakness. But they are very unique in the fact that they allow you to get around resilience and defense up from one special, as well as give you a lot of damage. So I think the special is pretty good. The captain ability, I think, is what sells this character, though, if I'm being honest. But their super type. So their super type is one of these ones that give you a super type for the type depending on which one you are in their dual form. So if you are in Crocodile's form, when you use his special to go into his dual form, the dual form will be in strength type. So when you use the super type, it'll give strength characters super type. If you go into the dual form in Robin's form, then you'll give it your character's dex super type. So it's dependent on that. This is nothing new. Now, to proc the super type, you first need to use Captain Shift. You have to become the dual form during Captain Shift. So they could become the crewmate with the Captain Shift, or they could become the captain with their Captain Shift. And then you need to use their special to get into their dual form. You also need to have one of the 7 warlords or the Baroque Works characters. So quite a lot of conditions there, but it's not too difficult considering how quite common those 7 warlord characters are. And this will just remove or give you the option to remove the captain swap. This could be self-inflicted with the captain shift or through a captain swap of the enemy. It will also reduce the enemy barriers by 2 turns and increase the effect of enemy increased damage taken by 0.25 and gives the super type. Very underwhelming, guys. It's so bad. We have many other options for barrier negation. As I said, if you run Carrot as a hybrid with this character, or as a captain under this character as a sub, you can get around barriers with Carrot's captain ability anyways. It seems like a lot of steps that you have to go through for something that's not worth it. And then the captain shift as well as their swap effect are very underwhelming as well. Minus 15% cerebral and striker resistance to the enemies. Gives themselves a matching orb, but not even through block. And then completely removes characters' paralysis. So that also allows them to get around the paralysis orb on themselves, which is kind of useful, I guess. But this is one of the worst swap effects I've ever seen. They are literally like years old characters that have a better swap effect than this unit. Absolute trash. So the captain shift can be used once in the quest only. It's shifting with the middle left position. So if you're starting off with Robin and Crocodile as the sub, make sure they are in the middle left position. And if you are planning to swap the captain of Robin and Crocodile with one of your sailors, make sure the sailor you want to be swapped into your captain is on the middle left position. So if you are the captain and you are in Crocodile's form and you swap into Robin's form, you can choose to swap with the middle left character to become your captain, and vice versa. If you are a crewmate, you start off in Missile Sunday, Robin's form, and then you swap into Crocodile. But all it does is it gives them 3 turns of cooldown and gives the enemy minus 20% resistance to dex and strength. Super underwhelming, bro. Like, what even is this, bro? I mean, giving themselves cooldown is quite important, I feel, because remember, they are a 15 turn cooldown unit without expansion, which is quite hefty. So in content like, I don't know, treasure map, no, this character is way too inefficient to use for treasure map, or the captain shift is anyways. The captain shift is just trash. Honestly, just focus on this character's special, the captain ability, and their rumble abilities, because their captain shift, they swap, their super type, all of it is trash. Barely ever gonna need it. Maybe the barrier reduction on just the next month of content, but besides that, so useless. They do have super tandem boost, but it's not too useful. It doesn't give Luffy characters any type of buff. Remember, Luffy is now a mythical Zoan tagged character, so he doesn't get any of these buffs. And there's really not any good characters on Baroque Works or the 7 Warlords of the Sea that are great for high damage content right now, so we'll see. Super Tandem Boost is of course great, getting more of these characters, because Super Tandem Boost does of course stack. I think if you have a boost of 20 for the Super Tandem Boost, it gives you a 2x increase in how strong your Super Tandem attack boost is. But I'm not sure exactly how the multipliers work. As for Rumble though, this character is a debuff style character. Of course 55 cost, this is not a Rumble legend. Resistant to Action Bind and takes 30% less damage from Slasher and Free Spirit enemies. A lot of damage reduction, very nice. As for the Rumble ability, Striker and Cerebral class teammates, attack up level 5, defense up of level 5, and Slasher and Free Spirit class enemies get attack down of level 6, speed down of level 6, and characters with the aforementioned tags will get a special CT speed up of level 3. Now I'm pretty sure this includes themselves, which is kind of important because they are kind of one of the characters that will activate first on your crew during the match, since they have such a low cooldown. And the whole point of them is to activate before the enemies so that they can rewind them. So the special of Robin and Crocodile maxing out at 10 tons, of course, with 25 CT. Targets enemies within medium range for attack down of level 10 for 20 seconds. Speed down of level 10 for 20 seconds. So remember, you also have those the same debuffs from the passive ability. So the enemies can have so much attack down and speed down, they will be struggling to kill off your Crocodile and a Robin. So the chances of them actually using this special are very high. Of course, if you get inflicted with confusion, there is a chance that you will whiff and the team will possibly fail. But this is the type of character you can synergize with Nami and Karina, with the recent Dragon unit, to just completely rewind the enemy specials, prevent them from doing anything. But anyways, I didn't get to the best part of this unit special. So they'll first target enemies within a large AoE range for 2 times their attack as damage to the enemies, not through defense. And then they'll give an 80% chance of paralysis for 10 seconds to the enemies within that same range. And then target Slasher and Free Spirit class enemies for special CT 40% delay. That is absolutely insane. Slasher and Free Spirit are screwed. Remember, characters like Hancock, Nami, and Robin are also Free Spirit. So they will get delayed. There are many characters on meta teams that have Free Spirit or Slasher. So it's not just Slasher and Free Spirit teams, like not just the mono teams, I feel. Mainly Free Spirit. There's a lot of good Free Spirit characters in the game. And then targets those aforementioned tagged characters for defense up of level 5 for 20 seconds. So this character is essentially buffing your characters to ensure they don't die, while simultaneously debuffing the enemies to ensure they can't use their specials. The attacks will attack less frequently because they have speed down, and the attacks, when they do attack, will be much weaker since they have so much attack down. So against Free Spirit and Slashers, this character is going to be so good. But let's take a look at that GP stuff. Absolute trash. See you guys in the next video. Peace. I'm out.